Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today we're going to be doing the second to last 2023 USFL College Draft Review, and today we're doing the New Orleans Breakers, the team that made the playoffs and was the only team that got crushed in the playoffs. So, without actually just, holding out, let's get right into it. The first pick, the fifth overall pick by the Breakers, was wide receiver from Cincinnati, Tyler Scott. Scott started all 11 games for the Bearcats, setting career highs in receptions at 54, yards at 899, and touchdowns at 9. He ranked 19th in the FBS in receiving touchdowns and had over 100 yards receiving in 4 different games. He recorded 1,439 receiving yards in his career. So, here's the problem with this pick. This is like when everyone was thinking about whether or not actually this was if Stetson had actually signed the thing, was a lot of people were saying you should draft Stetson Bennett because why not? Because if he does come, it'd be huge. This is like that pick. Why? Because everybody knows this guy's going to the NFL. He runs I believe it's like a 4.44 40. He's got speed. He's going to go to the NFL for a couple of years. So there's almost no way this pick immediately pans out. The idea is that maybe 4 or 5 years down the line you get him, but with a guy like this, you might have to wait that long, and he might not even come to the league. So this was a really bad pick, I'm going to say. If this was one that you picked in like the last couple rounds, I would say this is a great pick. This is sending out a Hail Mary for the why not. But with your first pick, yeah, this was not that good. Then their second pick was linebacker Noah Taylor from Virginia. He played in 12 games for Virginia in 2021. He had 69 tackles, 8 TFLs, and 3.5 sacks. It was an all-ACC academic honor roll. I mean, I think that this is an okay pick. Again, like I've always said, offensive line is the best, and I don't know why they wouldn't go that route, or use their high pick on a position of need, just saying they kind of do need a tight end, but I guess this is it. I'm pretty sure they did lose Davin Bellamy. I believe he is gone, so they do need some sort of improvement on their defense. So I do understand this to a degree, but I'm not the biggest fan of this pick. I think this wasn't the greatest, but I don't know. I think it was okay. Then in the third round, they picked DJ Ivey, Miami, Florida. He cornerback. He appeared in 11 games for Miami with 38 total tackles, 7 passes defended, and 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. He had 127 total tackles, 17 passes defended, and 6 picks while appearing in 58 games for the Hurricanes. I think this one is a decent pick. I'm not really too much against this. Getting some help in the back end is always good, especially since this is one of those teams that didn't have any sort of big-name cornerback or even just defensive back last season. So this one I actually am pretty okay with. I think this is definitely an overall solid one. So I do like this pick for them. Definitely a decent one. So, yeah. Then we have Keaton Mitchell from East Carolina, running back, 4th round pick. He played a major role at ECU in offense both 21 and 22. He rushed for 2,492 yards, 23 touchdowns over both years. And then last year he had 1,400 alone and 14 touchdowns, along with 252 receiving yards and a touchdown catch, scoring in the Pirates' final 7 games. He was an honorable mention All-American by PFF in 2022 and made the first team All-American Athletic Conference in both 21 and 22. Solid pick. I wouldn't be too shocked if he does go to the NFL for a couple of years, so in that sense, it's a little surprising. And the thing that you need to know is that this team, for some reason, got rid of Jordan Ellis for seemingly no reason, because I guess of the idea of a new guy. So their only real big star that they've retained is really Gerard Fernandez, and basically everyone else is gone or they cut. So I think this is a pick that it's good because it's a position of need, but it's a need that they caused themselves because of, I guess, the coaches weren't a huge fan of him. I don't know. I think this could work out, but again, this is just not the biggest fan of this pick. Then the 5th round, we have Isaiah Moore from NC State, linebacker. He was a linebacker for the Wolfpack before suffering a season-ending injury after 7 games in 21. He returned in 22 to have 82 tackles and 15 TFLs for NC State, and he played in all 13 games. He also notched a 3-sack and 8 QB hurries last season. He finished with 341 total tackles over his career. Again, this is a pick that I would say is solid, but linebacker isn't the biggest position I need. Vontae Diggs is coming back. Gerard Fernandez is still here, who's great. So they really need help more so on the defensive line than the defensive midfield and the linebackers. So I'm not the biggest fan of this. I guess that they're hoping to try and continuously have a great linebacking group, as that is the most important part of a defense, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Now, we do have some D-line help in Dante Stills from West Virginia in the 6th round. He set a West Virginia football record by appearing in 58 games over 5 years in the Mountaineers. He started in 36 of them. He holds the program record for career TFLs at a pretty respectable 52.5, and is 4th in sacks at 23.5. In 2022, he was an All-Big 12 first team by both the AP and coaches polls after notching 26 total tackles and 4.5 sacks and 9 TFLs. Again, another guy that could come to the league, but it won't be for a few years. It seems that most of their picks aren't like some other teams, who a lot of other teams are picking guys that legitimately could be there in like a year or two. The Breakers are kind of going for the fences more on these picks, but if he does come, that'll be a huge help. He can help replace the hole that Bellamy left, so decent pick. Then in the 7th round, another running back from Virginia State in Darius Higgins. He had 1,000 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns for V-State in 22, along with 17 receptions for 130 yards. He had 2,000 career rushing yards, and he had 17 touchdowns with the Trojans before sitting out the 2020 season, despite sitting out. So he could come to the league in the next couple of years. Isn't, that huge big-name guy that's going to definitely go to the NFL, but, if he does come, I guess that would be nice to have, but again, it's one of those where it'd be better to just draft offensive line, get that group a lot better, or tight end, since, as everyone knows, they did lose their huge target in Sal Cannella, and I get they got Sage Surratt, but he didn't do a ton, but I don't know. Then in the 8th round, wide receiver Jake Bobo was picked from UCLA. He was UCLA's leading receiver in 22. As a transfer, he had 57 catches, 817 yards, and 7 touchdowns, catching at least 3 passes in every game that the Bruins played, which is a very respectable thing to have. So I think this is a decent one. They didn't have the best of receivers, but they had decent ones. Johnny Dixon was decent last year. But again, another receiver pick. I guess this one has a better shot of, actually coming to the league at some point versus Scott, but I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of this way of thinking, but yeah. 9th round, we have Alex Palczewski. I might have butchered that name. Offensive lineman from Illinois. He's one of the nation's best offensive linemen in 22, refusing to allow a sack on all of his 713 pass block attempts per PFF. He tied the FBS record with his 65th career start in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Mississippi State on January 2nd, 2023. This guy's definitely going to get an NFL opportunity. The fact is, when you combine being a very consistent player where you're not hurt on the trenches, as well as being able to do great at, pass blocking, you're going to get a shot in the NFL. If he does come to the USFL, I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes one of the best linemen in the league. Very simple. This is probably their best pick of the whole draft. Then last, we have Tyler Baker-Williams, another NC State product. You'd think with all the NC State and Virginia guys this team drafted, they played in one of those states. I'm just saying. Cornerback. He appeared in just 5 games for NC State in 22 following offseason surgery, but still recorded 17 total tackles and 2 picks. He was a second-team PFF All-ACC performer and honorable mention All-ACC choice on the official league team, and won NC State's Dwayne Washington Award as the team's top defensive back in 20 and 21. An okay pick, not the biggest fan of it. Again, it's another cornerback, which, yeah, they do need some, but they're bringing back a decent amount of their defensive back group, so, that having that second season together, I don't know, it's a weird pick. So, overall, in terms of the draft, I would say that you can make a really good case that this team had the worst draft of all of them, and I do mean that. They only drafted 1 offensive lineman, and they only drafted 2 linemen, period. They didn't fill their biggest position of need, and that's getting a tight end. I don't think they should go with the idea of bringing back the same core and adding Sage Surratt. You lost the best tight end in the league in Sal Cannella. Cannella was like the only reason this team even was in that playoff game that got crushed. Everyone seems to think that, Kyle Slater was so good. He was all USFL just because he played all 10 games, not because he was really that good. I mean, Sal Cannella was by far their best player on offense, and then their second best player was Jordan Ellis, who they let go. So you force yourself to have to get a running back. So I don't look at those picks as good. I look at them as, why did you just get rid of Ellis? But you didn't draft a tight end. There were only 3 drafted. They should have gotten one of them. The other teams that drafted the tight ends were teams that needed a big name tight end. This team should have done that, and instead they chose not to. Now, their decision to go so heavy on linebacker, I don't get that either. Now, I'm not going to say this gets an F because I think a couple of their picks were good, but like the Tyler Scott pick, that should have been a late round pick, not your first one. I think that a lot of these picks they had are those swing for the fences type picks, but even then, you didn't address the best positions of need like offensive line or tight end. So I'm not the biggest fan of this draft. I think that overall, this is really not that good. I think that this group really failed, to actually do well. So I'm going to give them a D. I think a D is fair. I mean, you had a couple decent picks. The Palczewski pick was a solid one. I really like that pick. And, I like that one pick. And then I'm glad they at least addressed the position that they screwed themselves in running back. But, man, they should have drafted Scott later. They should have gotten a tight end. They should have done more on the offensive line. It's just, this was definitely the poorest draft in the entire league. D is definitely fair. So this has been Zom Fox. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We still have one more team to do in the showboats, and naturally we have more news that's going to be coming out as we get closer and closer to the season, as players are now appearing at camps now and all that. So, as always, have a great night.